Okay, welcome everyone. My name's Jim Mon, and I'll be doing the first couple of slides here in the slide deck. Uh, everybody knows me, and if you don't, there'll be a slide at the end that has my contact information. The whole idea behind these webinars is that they're for you to help you learn more about Cyberquery. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, email me, call me, whatever you'd like to do. And at the end of the session, there's going to be a survey that would like you to fill out. And part of that survey is asking about what topics you'd like to see presented in the next several webinars. So again, we want to keep these webinars user driven, just like this one, talking about bills of material. But again, so make sure you do fill out uh, that webinar or that survey at the end. So today is the fourth episode in this Cyberquery Discovery Seminar, the webinar series. Um, we have Jeff Dabbert with us, who's going to be doing the presentation. You've A lot of you probably talked with Jeff. Jeff's one of our senior consultants at Cyberscience, and Jeff is really expert when it comes to bills of material. He's been working in the manufacturing arena for 30, 35 years. He's been in Cyberscience over 20 years, so he really knows the software. And Jeff and I actually worked together with Paul at a previous company that worked very closely with the Infor customer base, both with Sightline and with Infor LN and good old Bond. So we know how important bills of material are in that environment. So we're excited to present this session. And again, Jeff will be doing most of the presentation. Um, so we'll just kind of go through that. But just in terms of overview, so the Cyberquery Discovery Seminars are really designed for you to advance your skill, your knowledge set when it comes to cyberquery. So please ask questions. If you don't feel comfortable asking questions in this environment, feel free to send emails and we'll take care of those questions for you. Second item here, customer driven. So at the end, please fill out the survey. Tell us what you'd like to learn about, whether it's another topic like bills of material, whether it's AR aging, AP aging kind of reports, or again, whatever you might need. We'll put those in the schedule. And just plan on the third Wednesday of each month being at the same time, being a 30-minute session on Cyberquery. So just count on that. And again, if you can't make it, we'll send you a link to the recording. But again, these are your sessions, so please give us that input. So with that being said, I'm going to turn the time over to Jeff, and he's going to jump right in talking about what's on the agenda for today. So, Jeff, take it away.
Hello, everybody, and good day again. My name is Jeff Dabbert. I work in the professional services group at the Cyberscience Corporation, and going to cover the topics we'll be going through today. And the first topic on there, as Jim noted, is going to be a bill of materials report and really covering the recursive relationships. And we all know that the bill of material report is really a function of what we like to call like the DNA of a product, our single authoritative blueprint that every department relies on, from engineering to procurement to manufacturing. And because of this, even a single incorrect part number or quantity can produce a ripple effect throughout the entire production process, as we know, causing delays, hopefully not cost overruns, or even product failures. So we'll be covering that. We'll also be covering an example of a more complex relationship as well in regards to an AR transaction report. So those are the two topics we're going to be covering today. And at the end, we'll have our Q&A session. So first, a bill of material is a comprehensive structured list of all raw materials, components, subassemblies, etc., required to manufacture a finished product, or in this case, I'll be referring to that throughout this presentation as an item. It acts as a product roadmap used for production planning, procurement, costing, as we talked earlier, ensuring accurate inventory management and manufacturing efficiency. And we're also going to be talking here a lot about the recursive join back to the item master. As we know, we start off generating the query or developing the query for a bill of material against the item MST for those of you in the CSI or Sightline environment. For those of you, and thank you for those of you joining from the Infor LN or Infor Bond, for Infor LN, we'd be starting at the table we know as the TCIBD 001, And for the older bond customers, we will have the TIITM 001. That will be the main item where we derive that information from the main table or domain, as we call that in the cyber science environment, or the inquiry or query itself. Then we want to create a one-to-many join. We'll be joining into the job materials table, again, for those of you in the CSI or Sightline environment. And if you are in, again, the N4LN or BON environment, and I apologize for using BON and BOM in the same presentation. I hope that doesn't get too confusing. But that will be going, they have a specific table for the build, the TIBOM 010, allowing us to join into that. And what we'll be doing here, as you see, is the first join from item or your item master into the job materials will be a one-to-many, because from our main item, we want to pick up, again, all components, sub-assemblies, raw materials, and so forth that we'll be using for that information. Then we'll be linking those level 1 components back into the item master, because that's going to allow us access into the part number, the part description, the quantity, the unit of measure. And in this case, we're also going to be bringing in the costing information, such as the material cost, the labor cost, overhead unit, and so forth. From there, we'll be taking that information. We'll be joining again on another one-to-many of all those component items from level 1 down into our second level here. Now, one thing I'm going to talk about quite a bit during this is clear and concise naming conventions as you produce and develop this report. Because one thing that gets very confusing, especially those of you who have 20, 30, say 50 levels deep of a bill of material, you want to make sure your code accurately reflects what section you're going after for not only development, but also for troubleshooting and for display as well. And again, we'll cover that at a fairly good length here today. Here's an example of a BOM report that we're going to do, and this is the one I'll be developing of 8 levels. And you can really see that, again, the key components are we have our part name and description, the source of it. We'll be talking more in terms of the source about the manufacturing and purchase aspects of it. We also have here, we've got the quantity, we've got the unit of measure. We see on the far left, we have an indented BOM level itself, going from level 0 to level 1 and so forth, picking up all those items as well. Okay. And you can see on the far right side, that's where we're going to be bringing in and analyzing our material, cost, labor cost, overhead, any outside cost, and any unit costs as well. And we'll be reproducing this exact same report here today as we go through the demonstration, or the webinar. We have different types of BOM reports that we can create. And one of them is going to be the engineering BOM or the E-BOM. And that's really created during the initial design phase on the initial product structure. We also have here a manufacturing BOM, which is created for production, as we'll be developing here today, listing all of the parts required for assembly, including packaging, consumables, and so forth. We can produce a very simple single level BOM, which would show the high level item and then just its level 1 components. We'll show you that today in the demonstration, because that's going to be the first part of the code I'm going to be reviewing. But we're also going to be showing here what probably most of you are looking for is the multi-level BOM. And that multi-level BOM is going to display a complex hierarchical structure of the child-parent relationships, being able to go from level 0, or the main item that we input via a runtime parameter in the query, with the ability then to go down to subsequent levels. And again, the restriction here today is just I'm displaying 8 levels, but the only restriction you'll have is how many levels your corporation actually needs to drill down to that lowest level to analyze that bill of material. So then we're going to look at here, what is a recursive join? And we see a recursive join allows us to make multiple reads to the same table, kind of outlined in that previous slide that we had here. Since we're going from our item table, the primary domain of the query we'll be developing, down into the job material on a one-to-many, picking up all those subcomponents. Then we'll be using from that first level of job material, we'll be picking up all the item information as we saw there with the part, description, cost, and so forth. Then we'll be taking all of those component items that we have from the item master. Then we'll be further drilling down into those levels into the report, again, for level 2, 3, up through level 8 as well. And for our demo, again, we'll have 8 levels showing you those as well. Now, one thing we're going to talk too about is the source of the item itself. We're going to be looking at a primary manufactured and or purchasing item, but when we drill down into these subsequent levels, if we run into a purchased item dictated in the CSI or Sightline world by the PMT code, that allow us to stop that. Because if we get to a level that has a purchased item, well, we don't have any manufacturing going on, that we're not assembling it, there is no bill of material, So we'll be stopping the joins from taking place at that point, and we'll be showing you how we can use customized report variables inside of those recursive file relationships to be able to drill down into those subsequent levels. As we see here, just like the previous example that we have, got our item main domain into our job material. And again, those of you in the info or the BOM environment, that'll be into your TI BOM 010. Linking that back into the item master or the TCIBD 001 for LN, TIATM for your BOM customers. And that allows us to get in there and get all of that descriptive information, cost, quantity, and so forth. And we'll take all of those subsequents because from the first level 0 to the job material, again, that's a one-to-many. So bringing all of those parts, we create a one-to-one to the item to pick up the components and all of the descriptive demographics. And then we take all those components and do a one-to-many back into the job material or the T-BOM to be able to pick up all those subsequent second levels and so forth. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to jump in and start the demonstration and show you how that Cyberquery code has been developed. And so here's the output, the same one that we just saw just a minute ago before. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, and I find it much easier to show these recursive file relationships in the language editor, but that's not in any way, shape, or form said that you can't use the graphical editor for it, but it just doesn't have a clear and concise output or a view that we can see the code on how that's taking place. So what we see first and foremost is, let me just go down, and I apologize, I'm probably going to make a few people seasick. I'll try to keep my scrolling to a very bare minimum. What I'll show you first, as we talked about in those few diagrams, is we want to use the item table for the domain or the primary table for the reporting itself. And what we're going to be doing is using a runtime parameter to perform the record selection criteria. So we're first picking up the site, which is the individual site for the CSI and the SiteLine customers. Those of you in the Info or LN or BON will know that that's akin to the company field that you have here. So that's how we're splitting out the data between two different divisions, companies, and so forth. So again, pardon me for the shaky C here, but let me scroll all the way back up to the top. Another thing to note as we go down and look at this BOM and the code that was developed is very good use of the comment feature that you can use, because each time you drop into a new level, create a new variable, you want to make sure they're clearly and concisely defined here to make sure that you can troubleshoot, to modify, maintain the code in a much more efficient manner rather than having them just kind of all over the place. So when I'm going to scroll down, we see the first two runtime parameters, just multi-value, allowing you to enter multiple sites and or multiple items if needed for that one. Okay, and this was what I was talking about in the first level item. So I give it a comment here telling the user or the developer what my first level is going to be. And then I use a clear and concise naming convention to determine, okay, so I'm going after my level 1 item. My level 0 item is just that main item I'm inputting, coming from the data coming from the item master itself. So we see here the model 1 is a defined file statement, accessing the job material table. And then it's using that primary key of the job material. So I'm picking up the item and the item suffix to make a unique join into the job material on a one-to-many. So for that one item, we're picking up all those references from the job material. And then I'm going to go through here at this point, secondary, and go in and get all the items information from that level 1 file relationship. So again, a nice clear naming convention. I'm using defined file item _1 denoting level 1, and I'm accessing the item master. And again, for the BON and the LN customers, that will be your TCIBD 001 and or your TIITM 001, using the primary key for that one on a one-to-one. So I'm picking up the item and then the site ref and drilling down in to pick up all of those references. Now, let me go ahead and run this one time, and then I'll jump back into the code. Is that when I generate this one, what we're going to see here is that when I run it for a particular item, we're showing you first our main input item, which is our level 0, and all of its related demographic data here. Then I drop into level 1, and I can see that level 1 is a manufactured item. So when I look at that manufactured item at this point, it's allowing me to drill down into level 2 of those items itself. Now you notice, though, that we have all these purchased items which aren't spawning into a level 3, because there's nothing to perform against that. They are just purchased items. They're not manufactured. But when I do run into a level 2 item that is manufactured, you see then that level 3 has been invoked, and I'm able to then view and display all of that information. And the reason that's taking place is that for each level that I've got, is I've created a new report variable for each file relationship after level 1. So you see I'm picking up the item key level 1, allowing me to say if the item underscore 1, so if that component item is of manufactured type, then I want to make sure that I'm using the job field or query name to pull in that information. Else, I'm just putting in a bogus or a false result of no key, which I will not have any job, hopefully in my database, named no key. So that means that the join will not be performed. So then when I go into here, again, you see the naming convention on my comment, and I'm following the same naming convention here. When I drop into my secondary levels, I'm accessing that job material table again in another recursive relationship, setting the job equals to now, not just the job from level 1, but the new item key to make sure I'm only going down to that subsequent level if in fact that part was manufactured and not purchased. Allowing me to drop in, so I've got that going here. So I've got my item key 1 on a one-to-many, picking all of what we call those level 2 items. And then I'm using the information from that material matl underscore 2 define file statement. And I'm using that now to drill into the item master, calling it item underscore 2. And then again, from that matl2, the previous join here, I'm using its item and its site ref on a one-to-one to pick up all that demographics again of the cost, the source, the quantity, and all those other demographics, whatever you need to be displayed on your report. And I'll perform that step each time as we drill down. So I'll keep it very consistent in terms of my report variables, my comment code, as well as my define file statements as I drill down from one to the next as well. So again, one last time down through the scroll. What I'll show you when I get done now with all my different levels. I've got through my file relationship, and let me expand this section just a bit. Because what I'm seeing here is this is the level 0 information that's being displayed on the report, and I'll run that again. And just show you there that we've got our level 0 information. That's from the unique or the primary display, just from the item master or the TCIBD 001 information itself. So again, sorry about the CSIC. And I'll scroll down and show you, okay, what I'm doing is just hard coding level 0. There's nothing in the system that's telling me it's level 0. It's our starting point for the manufactured process and the bill of material report we're developing. And then I'm just setting placeholders so I can have that indented. We see down here below in the output, the indentation of each different level. We can see where that place or what item that level is actually in. Then I go through and I display the item information here at this point. You see the cost information coming up. I'm also giving it just unique names because that's going to allow me to perform alignment steps as I go down through the report itself and display all the other attributes. So again, to keep this straight, I use the comments. So I comment out letting it know that this is level 1. What I'm doing here is I'm putting in a filter before I display my level 1 saying, if that link to the job matl on job did not pertain an item, I don't want to display that information. Then I've got a lot of blank lines on my report, and we don't want that. One other thing to note again for the N4LN or the N4 bond customers is that bill of materials table, the TIBOM 010, also contains a field for those items that allows you to know if it's expired or not. So you see in the bill of material reports I've developed for bond and for LN that I've used another switch too as well to go in and say, and the expiration date is less than today's date to make sure that I'm not displaying any items that have already been expired, to make sure that my bill of materials is as accurate as possible. Because as we talked about in one of the previous slides, that it can be somewhat catastrophic if we display a bill of material with items that are no longer functioning in the system as well. That will definitely affect the manufacturing process, and again, could have costing effects as well downstream. And I show you here, I've got all the information. I'm using the alignment switch based on the first level, level 0. And in the first level, I'm using that to align up to it. So when I produce my report, everything lines up very nice all the way across the report itself. And these steps are simply just repeated across all 8 levels all the way down through the report. And that's really the functionality that I use in developing this bill of materials. And it really starts off with, again, can't say it enough, your naming convention, understanding the underlying data as well, knowing that I need to go from my item master, my item table, down into the job materials or the T-BOM on a one-to-many, then linking from that level one that we see down into the level of item to pick up the demographics that we are displaying. And again, this is the finished product of the report. It can be run, as I said, for any site or multiple companies and for multiple items in a combination of such as well. Now, one thing that I also do that I'm not displaying here, but it may pique your interest, is a lot of times I'll develop what we call a where used report as well, where I'll take the same report that I've got and I will dump it out to a hold file. And I'll be referencing a hold file in my next example, but a hold file is a table for Cyberquery access only that was created via this product here, Cyberquery HTML. So what I would do is take this entire BOM and drop it into, for all items, into a hold file. And using this where used, what I could do then at that point is be able to go through, and I'll show you a quick demonstration of that, and just pick up a where used so I can see where is that column actually used, or excuse me, column, I apologize. Where is that item used in any one of those manufacturing processes as well? Which also can be extremely helpful to show you, okay, we put in a parameter of an item, its description, and we can see, okay, it's part of what build? What are the top level items this is actually used against? And you can design that in any way, shape, or form to meet the needs of that. So going just, sorry, off the path a little bit, just wanted to let you know that the BOM isn't the end all be all for us. We can also use that to create a hold file and drill into the data and get more, tangible results that we need for different types of reporting in terms of analyzing the BOM and analyzing our items as well. Then we drop back into the PowerPoint here. And the next example we have is for a period data mart and an AR transaction report. And so what we know is that the issue is that we've created an AR transaction report, and this is just theoretical. And we've gone out there, we've deployed it to the finance group, and the finance group has been using this for multiple months. Everything's great, the data's validated, but they've run into an issue where they've been asked to produce the fiscal year and the fiscal period that's related to the invoice date that's being produced on the report itself, or what we like to call scope creep. Comes up with all the reports that we develop for the most part, because while they're always great, best thing about Cyberquery is what more can we do? How can we extend this report to be even more functional in this environment? And the finance group has asked us for that. Well, the solution here to get that information is to create a periods hold file, or we call it a periods DM or data mart. Because if anyone's familiar with the period master or the TFGLD 005 or the periods table in MON and LN, is that they contain a fiscal year, a fiscal period, a site ref, or a company, in case depending on your N4 offering. But what they don't contain is a date field for every date on the calendar that tells you what you have in terms of a fiscal year and or a fiscal period. So what we're going to do here is create a new join type, and this is what we referenced in this first slide of the presentation, is we want to go through and create a more complex join, because what we want to do to bring in that in is a one-to-one. It's going to be approximate because we don't have the exact date, but we're going to show you why we're going to use even more of a complex technique with a one-to-one reverse approximate. Okay, so what we see here is we'll go through here in just a minute with the actual Cyberquery code. We see here we do a define file for fiscal periods where we're accessing the periods hold file. We'll show you how that's created. Where we have our unique key, because one of the most beneficial parts of the Cyberquery hold file is you can re-index the information as we need it here. You can restructure the information and create all kinds of report variables or calculations, or summarize the data as needed. Really great attribute for reporting. We also pick where the period start is equal to the invoice date. Now we know that it's not just a one-to-one relationship, or not a one-to-one, but there is nothing in the periods for each individual date on the calendar. But we do know we just want one result back, so we're going to take one invoice date to return one fiscal period year. We're going to call that approximate. But in Cyberquery, the approximate would look for, say, if we have a transaction on November 23rd, we have a start date of the 11th period of November 1st. We have a start date of December 1st for the 12th period. Well, the one-to-one approximate Cyberquery default would be looking to the next value. So it would bring in that December fiscal period and fiscal year. But we like to perform the reverse in this point, that allows us to go back and read the actual or the accurate fiscal period as well. So let me jump into the Cyberquery code once again. And first just show you what the display looks like when we build the Cyberquery data mart or hold file. What we're going to see here is this is the information that we've got. So we've got our site or our company number. We've got our fiscal year. We've got our start date. And we've got our fiscal period. So if we had, again, a transaction of November 23rd, just a one-to-one approximate, would just bring in that December 1st row. So that would tell us it's in 2017 in this instance, in the 12th period being inaccurate. But the one-to-one approximate reverse would go back and read the exact data that we're looking for to bring that column in. So again, let's have a look at the AR detail with fiscal year. Roll this down a little bit. And we can see that same file relationship now. It's accessing the hold file, setting the key structure on a one-to-one approximate reverse. So when we generate the output, we go ahead and see that we're bringing in now the accurate fiscal year and fiscal period. So anytime you're producing financial output for a report, it's really beneficial to have this kind of functionality available to you so we can add this thing in, especially if we want to do any kind of comparative analysis from a fiscal period from last year to the fiscal period this year and so forth. Just a great technique to have. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint at this time. There we go. There we go. Okay, that concludes that portion of the demonstration. Just kind of a key takeaway that we want to look for is that for the BOM overview, it's using those recursive relationships, but the naming conventions on those recursive relationships and the use of report variables to control when you go down to the next level is extremely key. And it definitely minimizes the number of records you read and optimizes your performance. And you're only really limited by the fact that how many levels does your company need or how many does this report actually need itself. So Cyberquery allows up to almost 33,000 lines of code per query. So you can put in pretty much anything that you're looking for. And back to the AR transactions, anytime that you have a need for a fiscal year and fiscal period for any report, not financial, that's why it's great to have the ability to create a hold file like the periods data mart and perform that one-to-one approximate reverse to get exactly the data that you're looking for. So those are the two topics I've covered today. I want to again thank you all so very much for attending. And at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation back over to Jim Mon. And again, thank you so much and have a great afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. And we did have a couple questions come in. One was pretty generic. Just will this work with linking? I mean, will this work with both CSI and Sightline? Jeff, do you want to answer that?
Yes, this will work for both on-prem for the Sightline and for the CSI, as well as in the cloud CSI as well. Works for all of those versions. And again, it also works for the Infor LN, Infor Bond, Infor Bond ERP, and so forth. So yes, it does.
Great, thank you. And the other question, I think we'll just answer as part of the survey, was can they get examples that you're showing here sent to them? So when you're filling out the survey and you'd like sample BOM reports, just note that in the survey, and we'll send you those. And also in that survey, please note whether you want that for Sightline and the version of Sightline, because there's a difference between 8 and then the newer versions, or Infor LN or Bond. So just mark that, and we will send you those samples so you can take them and tweak them for your own particular environment. So, okay. So in the survey, we're also going to ask you about upcoming session topics, whether you want something like AR/AP aging, real-time job boards, vendor performance scorecards, actual versus budget reporting. So again, when you get through into the survey, please fill those out and kind of rank them so we know what level of interest you have. One other one that we'll be showing here shortly will be the Cyberquery AI product. And it kind of goes back to a little bit what Jeff was talking about. In that bill of material, Jeff said to put in a description of what you're doing. Those descriptions are actually read by part of the AI product to help people navigate existing reports, or what we call starting points in the AI system. So do start and answer, and enter your descriptions as you start building reports. So, okay. I'm looking to see if there's any additional questions. So we did talk about adding site ref to your links, just to, especially if you're in a multi-site environment, so you don't get repeating items in there. But other than that, I think we're pretty good, and we're running out of time. So again, please complete the survey. And if you have questions, reach out. So here's the contact information for our support. Here's my contact information. You can get training information just on our cyberscience.com/training environment, or here's the support number. Email or call us. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, whether it's dealing with bills of material, whether it's something like a where used report, or as Jeff was describing, linking back to the periods table, or to, currency conversion rate tables. Those all come in, use that recursive or that reverse approximate join that Jeff talked about. So with that, we want to say thank you, and fill out the survey. You can request a copy to this recording, and we'll be happy to send those off to you. Thanks again.